confident you forced them out in time on the 4th and 1 play?
There's a lot of reviews that game, so I'm pretty confident now. But yeah.
How did that, I guess, did that play sort of spark the defense early? Obviously, you guys had given up a big drive before, and you kind of played that bend but don't break sort of, so to speak, in the first half.
Yeah, I mean that's always a goal of the defense is to find any way to stop the momentum, to stop that offense from creating more plays, and it's I was fortunate to be in that situation, and it that was a big play for our defense. Just to be able to get off the field, it's always big, and to leave the field with no points, it's a big deal.
Yep. How do you keep yourself, I guess, ready for those moments? You don't know necessarily going into a game that you're going to be on the field for that situation. The way some guys maybe assume that they are. How did you stay ready to react to that play?
It's always comes back to preparation. I always prepare like I could be the guy to take every snap. So you have to be ready to do what it takes. And our coaches do a really good job of making sure we cover as much as we can in all the possible situations. And we knew kind of what we thought was going to happen, and I just wanted to play my job, and it worked out.
Does that play kind of happen in slow motion for you on the field, or does it go by in a second? Because you're blocking somebody downfield, and you have to turn, and you could tell there was that convergence between you and him who was going to get the stick first.
Yeah, I it's tough to sometimes know where you are on the field a little bit. At that point, I just felt like the time was going too far, and then I had to make him make a decision. And yeah, like that play is it's a rare play that happens. 4th and 1 in the middle of or kind of in the field of play, and so I just felt like I had to make a play, and it luckily it worked out in our way.
Cody, you said you guys had a pretty good idea they might try to do that there. How much did you talk about that specific play where they're trying to leak that fullback out?
Well, I wouldn't say exactly that, but in the past I've gotten that play, and I've messed up on it like last year. So it's always kind of in the back of our head, like they pile everybody in just to entice you to come forward, and then they leak somebody out. And so it plays like that. Every offense kind of has one. So it's always a possibility that it can happen like that.
Cody, do you feel like the defense is seeing that more? Like it's a bunch of veteran guys now, where last year there was a lot of younger guys out on the field. Do you think that the defense hasn't really changed, but you guys have just seen more, so you know how to react to more things?
Yeah, I mean, and when you play at Ohio State, everyone kind of attacks you different ways and gives you new looks. So we're still working through all the little tricks and nuances that the offense will bring. So yeah, we're definitely more mature as a defense, but there's always going to be new issues and new problems that arise for our defense.
Have you ever seen Coach Dave animated as he was after the game?
No, yeah, he was fired up. I think our whole team was. So we knew the stakes of that game, and we knew that toughness was going to be the defining factor for that game. And it really always comes down to, like we talked about all offseason, just that 1 yard or that one play. So that's what we wanted to focus on, and it ended up in our favor.
Cody, have you guys embraced Ohio against the world, and what does that mean to you when you hear that?
Well, I think it's a level of pride that we want to be. We know that we're going to get the best out of everybody, and it's not that everybody's against us, but we are together, and when we're together, that we're almost no one can beat us besides ourselves, and so we always just try to stay together as a unit.
What was the reaction like in the locker room to seeing the way Ryan Day commented after the game?
I don't have any comments on his comments, but we felt his love for us, and we felt like he always has our back, and so in turn we have his back. And so before the game, we always said we were behind Coach Day no matter what. He's our leader, and we'll always have his back. And it kind of came out in a lot of emotion at the end of the game. And we love to have people who care, and people who know that they have our back, and we'll have their back. And so that was kind of that moment there.
Did you players feel like you had a point to prove, though? That y'all heard criticisms off and on. Did y'all feel like y'all had a point to prove in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, again, every game is a new battle. It's the hard part about being here. It's every team you play is going to give you your best shot. So it doesn't matter who you're playing. You got to be on every single cue and every single play. And obviously that game was a big game, but it's always comes back to like your training, your fundamentals, and it's one play, and it's the next play. Like you don't want to make the moment too big, too much bigger than it actually is.
What stands out to you the most about the way Tyler Bloom's playing right
Oh, he's playing really well. He's violent with his hands. It's hard to block him, and you could watch on film. He's in the backfield almost every play. So I've seen it since he came here as a freshman that he was going to be a dominant player like that. So it doesn't really surprise me. You guys are seeing it on Saturdays now, but he's a really really skilled player, and I'm just really happy for him that it's coming out and on big games like this because he's really showing the world what he can do.
What did you see as a freshman that told you he could be that dominant?
Oh, I remember when he came in spring ball and he was just like no one could move him, and he was a freshman, just didn't really know where he was going, but he was just in the plays, and he was dominant as a freshman. So I'm happy for him now.
What's his hustle? He made the tackle on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
Y'all thought it was all over, but it wasn't, right? I mean, what does that just speak about him?
His instincts and his effort. He gives a lot of effort, and he gets tired. He gets tired after these games because he's playing so hard, and it just speaks to his character and how much he cares for his other brothers on his team.
What's it been like to see Chip train him go from coming in here as a linebacker last year to now playing as big of a role as he is at running back?
He's 100% a team player. It's not easy to be able to get changed from position to position, even from transferring. So he's shown that he really all he cares about is Ohio State and the Buckeyes. And I'm so proud of him. So happy that he was able to make that big play. And he's showing that the world really that all his effort and all his training and everything in the offseason, he was one of the hardest workers on our team. So I'm just so happy for him.
Someone else I wanted to ask you about, Lathan Ransom had a big impact throughout this game. 13 tackles, 5 more than anyone else on either team. What did you see from him Saturday, and what has he provided to this defense this season? Yeah,
Lathan's super explosive and he's super tough. Like he'll play through almost anything that ever happens to him. So I'm not surprised by it because Lathan's that's the type of guy he is. He'll always go as hard as he can, and he's so violent. And what you guys see on Saturdays, that's like every day for us. He's going to go as hard as he can no matter what.
Was he playing through something Saturday?
I'm not really sure his actual medical injuries, but he's just playing. Everyone's playing banged up, but he just has stuff going on with his body.
What do you feel like y'all need to get right over this 2-week period? I mean, it's still maybe lingering out there. You know what I mean? Get straight heading into the last 8 games.
Yeah.
Just defensively.
The amazing thing about football is it's really all about fundamentals, and it's all about the basics. And it's bye weeks that's the main focus of bye weeks is getting back to being violent with your hands, footwork, communication. Like everything's all simple. And that's the thing about these big moments in games. You think it's miraculous plays, but it's really just the basics and who can do their basics better than the other team.
Yeah, and then one step y'all got on that 4th and 1 where I think it was Hartman kept the ball down. You may have already talked about this when I walked up, but Sonny Styles mirrored him all the way down the line and Lathan fired.
Yeah.
What does that just tell you about those guys and where they are, et cetera, and getting the job done?
Oh, they're so instinctual. They know. I'm not gonna say they know what the play was coming, but we knew it was gonna be a sneak, and they figured out where to be, and they make the play, and it's I don't really know what else to say, but it's just a great play from them.
Kobe, what is that Sunday like when you kind of wake up finally after the late flight, getting back some sleep, and then you wake up? Like, what does it feel like? Is it surreal? Does it almost feel like that didn't happen? Like, take me through that.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the best atmospheres I've ever been a part of. Their crowd in their stadium was off the charts, and there was definitely like a deep breath that you let out. Like, wow, like that really happened, and it definitely helps with the bye week, and so you can kind of let yourself collect your emotions, and it's a amazing event, but now everybody's going to watch that film, and we know that we have to get back on our grind, and it's all about how can we follow up with that game, and like Coach Day said, like it doesn't matter, like this game could be so great, but unless we back it up week after week after week, it won't mean anything. So we have to keep pressing and keep getting better every week.
Did you guys give yourself at least a little bit extra to celebrate that win, given that there's a bye week? Or usually, I know that you guys try to turn the page on Sunday, but you have to give yourself at least a little bit of time to celebrate that one. Yeah.
The bye week definitely allows you to catch your breath, and we made sure we celebrated that one. That was probably the most electric our locker room's ever been after a game, and because we knew the moment was so big, and there was a lot of attention swirling around that game. It's college game day, that's a big deal, and so to get a top 10 win like that was a really big deal for our team. It's so important for us. Having great D line play is essential to a good defense, and those guys in the middle they create havoc in the trenches there, and so it all it does is either clean up the look for us or they're making a tackle. So it really there's no downside to when they can play violent like that, and they're consistently doing it. So we're happy that they're doing that. We just have more practices, I believe, and then I think we're off. I don't know. We have the weekend off, so that's all I know. Um, but yeah, just more practices, and we're just getting back to our fundamentals, and it'll be like our normal practices, I believe.
Any fun plans for the weekend?
Just watching the games. I'll watch my brother play against Virginia Tech, so that'll be a good one. It's definitely important for the bye week to watch your tendencies and watch what you're given to to offenses, and it's really what we're doing. We need to go back through the Notre Dame film, and because that's such an important game. A lot of our issues came out that game, so we need to double down and focus on those, and just the first 3 other games that we played, and you want to see what other teams would see from you, and that's a main focus for us, and just making sure all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Yeah. That would probably be more individually and positional, just because it's easier to focus on like your alignments or your movements or whatever.
Who do you think the best team in the country is right now? Have you seen enough football?
Nah, I mean, if I didn't say it was us, I wouldn't have the trust in my
Best you
my
guys.
body. Oh, I don't know. I'm not. I'm only focused on Ohio State right now. Nah.
What was Shane's reaction to Saturday's win?
Oh yeah, he's always super supportive. He sent me a text before we took off on the flight, but he had his own game, and I'm just super supportive of him too, and he's doing really well this season. So it's great to see him in his last year playing super well.
Was he extra excited for you given the improvement?
Oh yeah, he had a very interesting career there, and it went well for him, and he's on a new chapter in his life, and I'm as supportive as possible for him right now, and he's doing really well there. So I think he just got announced for like a semifinals for an award, so he's doing pretty well.
34 games in, what is different about this defense from a year ago? I mean, from a confidence, is it confidence? What is it? Guys being where they're supposed to be. What is different about this defense?
I think the main difference is that we can expand on what we did last year. We were all kind of new to the system last year, and so now we kind of have an understanding of how Coach Knowles wants to coach us and how his scheme, like how he's making scheme up in his brain. So yeah, it's pretty. He's pretty impressive with his the way he thinks about defenses, and but I think it's that development and how we can be a more advanced defense, and that's I think the biggest advancement is.
Like everybody knows where everybody's supposed to be on any different play, which didn't look that way sometimes last year. You know what I'm saying? If you've got this guy's got that. I mean, that's simple football, but it takes a while to develop that, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, and that's the thing again about football. It's just to have that level of focus every play. It's really hard. It's not easy to do, and what it looks like on TV may not be what it actually is underneath the camera. But I think we spend a lot of time trying to make sure every individual detail is worked out, and making sure like you could be off by one step and be out of the play. Like it's all it takes. It could be one step to the right and the play's going left and you're gone. So I think that's what the main focus is, just to make sure all of our details are perfectly ironed out, and it'll never be perfect, but that's our job to try to make it as close as possible and work every day to make sure it is as perfect as it can be.
What do you think a win over there does for this type game, top 10, goes down to the wire? What does a win like that do for the confidence of this whole team?
It means a lot, 100%, a lot, but it goes back to our off season and the pain that we felt from last season, and how it was so close. Like the being able to get into that final game, it's so close, and we understand that all it takes is an inch to like you don't know when that inch is coming, but all it takes. And so to see that actually play out in real time, I think it allows our guys to believe more into that you don't know when the play is coming. So you have to be perfect or as perfect as you can be at every time and have to be as tough as you can be at every time, at every point, every play, because that play could be whenever. And I think it's just coming out to that game and how that game ended. It was such an important moment there. And I think our team is definitely going to respond and we will lead on with more toughness and play as hard as we can because we understand now that it really can play out to 1 inch or one play.
You guys talked about, Coach Day, and obviously the way that he went to bat for you guys. What does that mean to you guys to see your head coach out there, like, calling people out?
Yeah, I don't really worry about when he's calling people out, but I know, and it didn't take his words or anything to know that he really truly does love his guys and all his players and everyone who's involved with Ohio State and everyone in Ohio. Really, you don't really need his words. You know he goes to battle every day, whether it's practice or film or with media. Every day he puts on that shield of that block O, and he's shown his love for all of us. And I had no doubt. It didn't matter what was said or anything that went on before or after the game. Like during that game, he's there for us no matter what, 100%.
You said that you guys know what Jim Knowles is thinking now. How long did that take? And is that a scary place?
No, I wouldn't say I know exactly what he's thinking. He tries to relay it into ways that can help us, but it's every week is different, every team is different. So to be able to match up against other teams, he'll definitely give us what he's thinking for that period. But the scary place, I don't know if it's a scary place, but he definitely has a lot of football knowledge that helps us in many ways.
Cody, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
I don't hold off on the scale. I wouldn't go there. I mean, TJ. TJ Watt's one of the greatest pass rushers ever, but Lawrence Taylor. We're not arguing, dude. I'm amazed to see. This is. I think TJ might get that. Right. Maybe 11. Maybe the yeah, that he's a little bit. No. The part where he's
I have a bunch of mid-tier wide receivers. Like I have like 5, 6.
Either way, he's the greatest thing that's ever happened.
Well, I don't see things wrong, but I understand everything. I mean, I got busy. They were just going to throw it in there.
Kirk Cousins might be the greatest middle.
Kirk Cousins is the best. Is the best worst quarterback.
That's
He like Zach Piece is fucking awesome. You're an idiot.
losing me.
That's like the bad. Okay.
That's what makes him the greatest back.
Yeah, but like the problem is
Like there was
you don't have enough money to go around.
in
It's just good enough that you have.
Kirk Cousins next year. I get that. I mean, as soon as the season ends, I bet the living.
They should. Honestly, I think
figure
they
it out.
should stick with rookie.
I told you
Pretty like neither day.
I
Why would they
told-
be
But keep doing that. They've already.
I told Steven, it's like, I think Kyle Shanahan is making it a point. Like, I think Kyle Shanahan is who's the worst quarterback so I can win the Super Bowl with? Because
don't think Purdy's the worst.
Purdy's not okay. Purdy's played how many games?
I mean, when you're
we don't
this
know
irrelevant.
if Brock Purdy was the quarterback of the pick an average NFL team. Commanders.
I mean,
Seahawks.
that's not
You make that point about so many quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's all about what the coaching staff is asking.
Quarterback is
They're not asking Purdy to do it.
Quarterback is but so that's the thing. You said it's the team around him.
Like,
If you were not asking your quarterback to do very much, doesn't that signify how much or how little they have?
I think it's the combination. Well, no, the combination of the opposite also was right. But if you put Purdy into Tampa Bay right now, that's literally a quarterback. Like, I don't think terrible.
Their interior offensive line.
It's not terrible if you're asking that quarterback to get rid of the team.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Take 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
The Bucks?
Yeah.
First of all, the division's trash.
Yeah.
Second,
I don't think you understand how bad the NFC is out there. I'm a Falcons fan. I'm telling you how bad the NFC is out there.
Why are you sorry? I knew. I thought you were gonna say. Dude,
The same reason everybody is.
I still have a game I've had no for every like once in a while. Once a year or so, I'll pull out the game too.
yeah, he's the best video game character.
No. No, that's
Not even sports movie.
unless you like. There are old heads out there who will tell you Bo Jackson.
That's not the same.
Yeah,
That's
what
not
type of
technical.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
You literally have a skill. Michael Vick's great.
The other thing too is when you had he could like adjust receiver routes while you were scrambling. And that's one of
Oh, the playmaker.
that's also
Oh,
QB vision.
It was so disrespectful too because Mike Vick was like here.
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs must have a program there.
Yeah. Like,
Josh
you
Dobbs.
see him trolling.
Josh, I really hope you like Josh Dobbs a couple of years when the Cardinals were brought out.
What's trying to figure out whether they're going to start Caleb?
No, that's what I'm saying. They're up sitting and well, actually, that's something that came straight.
There is a world.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I actually want to see Kyler.
See, that's the most ridiculous. That's even more ridiculous.
Are you
than
good?
saying Caleb Williams is bad.
I don't know if it's ridiculous.
How much is?
I don't know. I mean, Kingsbury, shit he ran. It's crazy. Right now, if you're winning with Josh Dobbs, making Josh Dobbs look good.
Dobbs is a big dude. Kyler's this little scout.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's just like it's all rushing offense. It's always nothing but action. Kyler's an asset to like everything.
You know where Kyler would be perfect?
It shouldn't be. Yeah, but like it's not.
No, seriously.
That's
I think San Francisco was the Super Bowl.
but well, but I
No,
think
I think he was
athleticism
not.
is kind of when you're talking about Debo and McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's a different.
That's what everyone said about Fields.
Well,
Yeah,
he doesn't have.
That's because
But
they're
so
trying to turn
here's the
Fields
thing.
to the top.
I don't disagree with you. The premise of Kyler Murray versus
You know who did look? You know who almost had that on us? Number 3 pick in the NFL draft.
He can do it, brother.
Here's the Brock Purdy. Do you know what Kyler Murray's pass number is for 2020?
It's almost like you could have saw that coming. He's playing on the stage. Yeah.
I know. And he also like rarely played high school.
What do you mean?
You know what his
Like,
pass number is?
Pro day.
I read it wasn't bad.
So you're telling, and you can, like, Kyler Murray is not
Never
like,
mind. San Francisco can't afford it.
Kyler Murray is, they would never do it. So, but Kyler Murray, you know who's going to be the quarterback of the Dallas. I think Dallas is done with that. I think they're done
If they
with
move off Dak, we can start.
But
I mean, you have like this is the NFL. We're talking about anything can happen.
But here's the thing. I understand what you're saying. I don't think what you're saying is insane of just Tyler versus Caleb Williams. I get it. But Tyler
I would
at
want
51.
Kyler for a year.
Tyler at 51. Or
I would want Kyler if he wasn't.
Tyler at 51. Or rookie year Caleb Williams after you trade Kyler for a first round.
Like who's to say year one?
Are you getting the first off for Tyler?
I don't believe in starting.
Yeah, like who's to say that Caleb's not going to need 4 years just like Tyler did too? Not only play well, but also like mature.
I especially need to
Couldn't you make
Literally
like you're
took
gonna
Tyler
have
4
a
years.
better supporting cast? I think you're gonna have a better supporting cast with Taylor because like when they drafted Tyler, they had burned the previous year's #1 pick. Now you actually have a tackle and then it's Humphrey. So if it's two good tackles, you're gonna get the Texans pick, which
I'm not sure if this thing's
but even still, so let's say you get the Bears are going to be one. So let's say you get 2, and let's say you get 12. 2 and 12 is what? Drake May and okay.
I would have just taken RB2
Because rookie quarterbacks are rookie deals are like best commodity.
only way to lose.
How many years ago?
He's got 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. He's got 5 years.
For the part,
I don't know if it's backfired, but here's the thing though. Like
I mean, you just signed an extension.
if you put Tyler out, you'd say there's somebody we're willing to listen. That contract is not like an off contract where it's like, all right, we'll flip quarterback with you and then we'll give you X. Somebody's paying you a 1+. Somebody's paying you. So I absolutely think so.
It'll be.
You're telling me
I
like
think you'll get paid.
a team that's gonna pick something at 22. A team that's gonna pick it like 22. Absolutely.
I don't know. I want to at least see him in a different system. Like, keep that in mind. It's the only NFL we've seen with.
But
So I just think that like,
Especially since like the Cardinals and Tyler.
yeah, I'm not downplaying Tyler.
I think you
I'm hyping up the upside of May, Caleb Williams,
Look,
and
we don't even know
his
what they can do. We know Kyler can be MVP. Like he was on track to be MVP.
I would say that I think you have to drop a quarterback.
Oh,
That doesn't mean you have to start your quarterback. I think you like.
But if you're going to trade
I
him,
wouldn't
do
use
it.
it.
If
There's
you're
so
gonna
many
trade
good
him, do
quarterbacks.
it.
Out of 5 teams.
Yeah. Okay, so because it's Caleb, it's Drake, it's Quinn, and then the fourth pick,
Jordan Travis.
What's the pitch you do? Riley Leonard's gonna be a first round.
So next,
What's his name from Washington? Well, I think somebody's about to reach.
McCord's not. If McCord's gonna be a day 2 pick, McCord will be the first one.
Where's not leaving?
I swear. No, I know.
Hey, ask him if he's gonna leave. Hey, I'm sure he'll third round grade.
I'm sure he'll
When I had
my point is, there's a lot of good teams.
Yeah,
So I
so
would
I
not
would
expect-
I would take a swing at a rookie.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want Josh Dobbs back.
No, I'm talking like early round 1.
I just have to say that you got a quarterback and you invest in that much. Like I think there's no replacement for that.
I'm not. It's
game
not
experience.
supposed
This is Zach Wilson. This is someone who like legit has been stalled level, whether it's injuries and yeah, flip teams.
no, she's great. They're undefeated.
His situation was so perfect. 2 weeks.
Did you see what
Sit there.
Did you see what Joe Namath said too? He was like, his play was disgusting.
I also think they're not helping Zach Wilson because the game plan they have is like they're having him throw like 8 times per first half, then they get down like 3 scores.
No, because he lost his picks.
Yeah, they got to at least try. Like,
They did for 2 years.
yeah, I know. Give it a go again.
They tried it for 2 years.
So, like, this is what you do. You make him throw the ball downfield. He throws like 7 picks, and then
Every time he throws the ball, the offensive rookie of the year gets more and more of that.
that quarterback class is real.
Because two teams
ugly.
reach and another team is not using.
I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that like
They got three. There were what? There were 5 first-round quarterbacks that year. 3 of those teams got caught up in the draft buzz of February and April.
The best case scenario for the Jets.
The Jets should have drafted Justin.
The best case scenario for the Jets is that Zach Wilson tanks their shit to where because they're still gonna have their first because Rodgers got one thing. The best case scenario for the Jets is Zach Wilson tanks their shit. They pick like 8. They trade up and they take. They're not going to get up to 1. But they're going to take Drake May. They're going to take Quinn Ewers. No, I'm taking a quarterback. You have them sit for a year, and then when Rodgers is 40 and wants to go through drugs in Croatia or something, you have him. There you go.
How are you gonna have Rodgers for a year from Milwaukee? This offensive line.
Yeah,
Rodgers.
Or,
There's no point in going with Rodgers.
But
here's the thing.
what is
Listen, Rodgers might continue the Brett trajectory that he's already on.
Yeah, but what about it? But isn't his contract? Yeah, so this year.
Who says he doesn't? He's not.
Who says the Jets have to resign him?
It is good. If he come up
If Aaron Rodgers is 41, if Aaron Rodgers
Tom
is
Brady
41,
won a Super Bowl.
yeah, but you act like Tom Brady. Tom Brady.
He's not Michael Vick
Tom
though,
Brady
so this like movement's
Tom
not
Brady
that
was
big.
voided out of his eye. Still made your football.
And you know what?
Look, I'm not
Aaron
saying Aaron
Rodgers
Rodgers doesn't put. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers doesn't put funny shit in his body.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that in 41.
I don't know if I want to do it.
You think Quinn Ewers would thrive?
Either just silly.
A combination of that plus Aaron Rodgers being his mentor, that's a
Whoever you want. Inside of the quarterback first. Riley Leonard.
I don't think you have to reach. Just take deal.
Look, always draft offensive linemen. If I were an NFL media, I'm taking an offensive. I'm taking a quarterback every single year. And I'm taking like 2 offensive linemen. One in the middle of the field. Offensive tackle, offensive guard, center, and I'm taking everything back. But I do think
I think the tricky thing is that Larry, because it's such a developmental position, it's really tricky to always grasp.
Really want to so I'm standing at the petroleum. I was standing at the sandbar, and I'm like taking some pictures and stuff, and like just went up to the kid, and I walked back, and I'm like taking some pictures. And there's this like moving usher on like campus, whatever. But then also the one that you get, hey, like you have a bunch of people, and it's like getting them the looks. They're like, that's I haven't seen the 19 years. Who is that? I've got it. It was interesting. You know, anything like this team. This is the first time being here. This is so cool. But they're talking to them and they're just like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like, I hope you have a great time with your name and this is the coolest road trip we've ever been on. This is the prettiest campus we've ever seen, blah blah blah. And the guy was just like, so what more? He's a quarterback. He's one of the quarterbacks. Hopefully I'll be able to get in the game. And I was I know they do this. But we said this a lot.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out this.
Maybe I noticed that.
That's happened.
And also that
You need to be like
No, I'm just saying, on that up by so much that you run every single scholarship.
unless he's like Vince Yati for
I think it would have to. I think the best year before it happened was 19. We had 3 guys across the scholarship, and it would have been like the Miami Ohio game. It was like 76.
You guys remember walk-on quarterback in the 40s? He was before you were here. Yeah. So he was.
I don't know.
I actually like kind of defended him a little bit. Playing basketball.
maybe Colorado
And he was like, should be the best actually.
What if DM comes out? I've seen
Didn't even know that.
Somehow that guy was a second round draft.
But yeah, it was just funny because this was when like he said he was going to be the backup. He was expecting to play.
Wow. I guess you gotta believe in yourself.
Yeah. Dude was like 6'4", 230. Boxed him out. Stuck back in offensive rebound. Shot it away.
How do they do?
And he didn't choose people.
After we just had we're gonna turn this down.
See, fires.
I hate you.
I love it for
Oh yeah, that's right. Who's this?
Anthony Holmgren. He's a true freshman, 5'11". He just throws it downfield. He's like a car. He's got a ton of picks, but like I think he's like up near the top of the country in passes. 20+ yards out there.
There we go.
If you're gonna lose
I mean,
Yeah,
you
looks
did
great.
He's probably gonna set all the records. He's probably gonna do it the next 4 years.
That's what I said about when I was covering hockey. They're getting older, they're slower. If you're not going to be good at hockey, be young. You can't be young, be fast. You can't be fast and be a bunch of assholes. You're just trying to start a bunch of fights. And there's three things, and the same thing. You can't be good. You can't be chucking things. Why not? What if you have to?
Because you're not college hockey, then you're talking about college hockey.
Dude, I'm so excited to go to college.
Players that can't move into the NHL, especially they after like an AHL stint or whatever, will go to college.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like 25, 26, and they just and they just
Dude, you
like
think
so
you think don't give Buckeyes coverage Ohio? You do just ACHA. It's 12 hockey. But when these kids would like go to play like major or not major junior, but like the level below. Go back to major junior. Level below, trying to make it. Would a lot of these guys have a choice? They could go to like some D3 school up in Massachusetts that has over 2,000 kids, and they could play D3 hockey, or they could come to like a bigger school like Ohio and play ACHA hockey, and just and all these kids chose that. And now they still take it very seriously, but it's not affiliated with the university. So these kids would show up as like 21 or 20, and it was college hockey. The Frozen Four in terms of excitement. Were you there
As
when
they say
I?
in hockey.
Were you there? I asked Steven. Wow, Steven, are you a hockey fan? He's sitting here. He's sitting there.
Blue Jackets have a fantastic.
You don't have to know what's going on.
it's way better than watching.
Yes.
Hockey is the best.
Going to a
Baseball games are like
Baseball games are like that, but they're different.
playoff games. I don't know what happened. For some reason. Yeah.
And the other,
The difference with hockey in person, like it's a difference. Like when you're at a baseball game in person, a baseball game in person is like a social event. Like you go with your friends, it's a summer night or summer day, you're drinking and you're having fun. It's like
Would you not go to the baseball game?
dude, I've been to baseball games when I was up. And I've sat in the upper deck and cheered.
the Orioles have like.
Have you not realized that in 2 months?
The Orioles also have
One
one
of
of
the
the
most
most
40. The season's at 33%.
I think it's gonna end without a bowl game.
When I was
This season is without a bowl game. We're gonna be a very, very busy season. Somehow this season is without a bowl game. We're gonna be a very busy season.
If this season ends without a bowl game, we're doing everything out of
No, what I mean is like there'd be such a dumpster fire.
I already.
No, not at all. I'd kill myself.
I was so happy.
I saw. How is our schedule right now?
I like it. Yeah, but that's easier because like and even
Our schedule right now.
Yeah, you have so much less.
yeah,
I might need it back on Friday.
because
Might need it. I might need a chart.
I love that.
I won't need it.
You can talk to a lot of these guys.
the other like
Oh, yeah, we were just saying if it's
Every photo I ever took from Notre Dame,
Is there another holiday?
I didn't have time to like
Have a little off and I started feeling it manually shoved out of it.
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why it's a bad choice. It's not like
Obviously,
he
it
was,
has all the leverage.
yeah, it's not like he was writing.
I mean, he could have played good.
And even then, I have.
Yeah,
It's not like Washington
Yeah.
State could have saved.
that's true.
See, we need you. Let's see.
No, part of me that's really just I was very funny when
I get to go to Detroit.
I want to cover a college. I want to cover a national championship game because I felt robbed of the opportunity in 2021 because I was there.
So let me ask you. So Ohio State makes it. You get to pick the opponent in terms of what you want to write about, storyline, even cool fan base. You think would be cool.
Yep.
We in our group chat, Texas brand. I understand. I understand. But so one of our friends was saying that he was twin Sewers. It was Jordan. So Jordan said, so Jordan has called him twin Sewers for years.
And now he might be a first round.
He said it's text like as technical meeting. He said it's Texas.
No, I appreciate that.
I think the only thing that would have made 19 better is if they would have got
Troy would have beat him by 2 scores. Because that LSU team.
I don't think you understand how good that Ohio
That
State team
team
is.
was.
Like,
That
I-
LSU
I-
team might be the best national.
That
best-
Ohio
best
State
college-
team had the number 2 and number 3 picks in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Plus another
Oh,
first.
where?
I get what you're. I understand that.
But I understand.
Ohio State was the most complete team.
Something LSU would have won. It wouldn't close.
What's up?
Something LSU would have
LSU would have won.
LSU
But
would
it
have won.
wouldn't have been a boat race. It would have been like a 10-point game.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, they would have hung there.
Yeah, of course they. Yeah, absolutely. Because Ohio State should have beat them. They had them on the road.
So like, I think some people have that idea. Like, oh, LSU just choose. That was the best defense
My dad
of the last like decade.
My dad still says that. I think he's a moron. The one
only one
there
play.
was one bad call that they made. I think
I don't know. I think that's
the Higgins fumble.
John Wade tackles like that. He actually should have got
Well, and
the fumble was the only play.
fumble was the only play. And like if you
It's not about what the offensive player does, it's about what the defensive player does.
and the like you want to add a rule. You want to add a rule in the rule book that says like the offensive player puts himself in a position. Then, but that's something.
Yeah, it's not like
Your problem is not
you
with
can't
the
blame
That's a
enforcement.
fair
You
argument.
can't blame the refs because Justin Fields wasn't accurate on the ball and J.K. Dobbins. You can't blame the refs.
You can't blame the refs.
Dropped the screen.
Ohio State should have been up like 21 or 24 or 28.
You can't blame the refs because Chris Olave decided to break the route on Justin Fields.
J.K. Dobbins hurts the most.
You can't blame the refs.
He is dealing.
The only thing is he did.
And that's only bags. It's literally 2 points.
I think my favorite.
I think Texas, the best case.
That is
Texas.
USC,
Those are the playoff games.
USC and the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. It's like, oh, shoot, faces of quarterbacks.
That'd also be like the last real Rose Bowl, I guess.
I also really want.
You know, for someone who likes tradition so much, you bring up you want non-powers to be part of the conversation.
That's what I was just about to say.
You know what helps to bring them into the conversation?
Does it?
Yes.
Because here's the thing. So let's.
I come
let's
around. I would see the track.
but, all right, let's look at this.
You can't say that you want.
I wish the first
First off,
two rounds was all.
first off, the people.
be against it.
It's almost like you get the vibe of not getting that.
But here's, think about this. Let's use Notre Dame.
I don't want to do that. Every time they get to the club, they get their ass kicked.
But in a 12-team playoff, what if they play Fresno State at 5?
Then they won't get their ass kicked like they have in the 14.
No shit.
But they'll get their ass kicked when they get to the semifinals. Pick a different team.
But that's my point. Use it exactly a team that just won Ohio State and
That same team, I don't think will be.
I agree. That's the way that works for Notre Dame.
They just don't have it. They don't have it.
And so you have a moment like that, but the home atmosphere is
They will.
in South Bend in December.
Yeah.
Where
Have you been to an
do you
NFL
know?
show?
Do you know what? No, but do you know students are going to be gone?
They'll come back.
You act like
Do you know where?
college you didn't
Also,
stay
junior
here.
seniors live off.
Do you know where?
Same thing with high school break too. Like students stay.
Yeah, like you have with the
Do
college.
you know where? Number one, Illinois. Number two, California.
I
Number
think you're
three,
thinking.
New York.
I think you're thinking way
I don't know
too deep.
what- I don't know
If
if
it's a
this is-
playoff game, that's they didn't.
But okay, so all
You're
right.
thinking way too deep.
I don't
into,
know
like,
about
the
that.
logistics.
I don't know about that. But two,
It's a playoff.
but two,
When
let's
is
look
the
at
first
this.
playoff
If Notre Dame, so Notre Dame lost. If they in a 12-team playoff, like if this happened next year, if we were in a 12-team playoff
You really
right
think
now,
there's not going to be a playoff atmosphere? Literally the first year they do a 12-game playoff, team playoff, every single game.
no,
It's gonna be
that's-
jam-packed.
No, I,
social event.
Yeah, it's just like
it'll be
that's.
fun. But
I
here's,
promise you, it's not going. The answer isn't. Oh, it's not even 12 games.
no, Notre Dame is going to, again, they just lost this crazy game. And now, what do you hear from a lot of national people when they're talking about college football playoff? Notre Dame's not out, but they got to win out. They can't lose again. They got to win out. Because if they win out, they will have beaten the Clemson team will probably be somewhere in the top 5. They'll have beaten USC. They'll have beaten Duke. Clemson doesn't play anybody.
Right. That doesn't mean
Clemson
people are
almost beat
going
Florida State.
It doesn't mean
Like
people
Clemson
are
almost
gonna,
beat Florida State.
But it doesn't mean people are going to rank them because they're beating shitty teams.
But if they're 8-2 and they play Notre Dame, totally right. But so right now we're looking at it like, hey, let's do Notre Dame. Notre Dame loses out. Duke's now this surprising fun team. Blah blah blah. In a 12-team playoff, Notre Dame can lose again, and they're still in a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, see,
I'm
that
not
was
seeing
my
the problem.
that was my original goal.
But don't you think when Notre Dame plays Wake Forest that game's got to? Don't you think that it adds more to that game than
No.
just like, oh? Don't you think if Ohio State lost that game?
I want to
When
see
Ohio
more
State
good
played-
teams
when
play
Ohio
other
State-
good
When
teams.
Ohio State plays Purdue, don't you think that game?
So listen,
If Ohio State had lost,
I don't care. I don't care about it. I want to see other good teams play other good teams.
Here's where that argument changes, though, because yes, if you look at like the Ohio State issue last year, had massive playoffs. There are going to be here in the Portland.
forget the whole moving the game.
But there's going to be, whereas there's a handful of teams that are competing for 4 spots, and there's a handful of months. You get so many more in like, well, like the Wisconsin, Washington, teams that are normally in that playoff race, and they're on that team.
But here to counter that, to counter that, Stephen just told me, and I agree with him, that Notre Dame gets smacked every year in the playoff, right? Okay, Notre Dame's really good. So you're telling me that if Notre Dame is going to get smacked, oh well, how could you say that? You know, don't you want more teams involved because they might actually get a fight? You're telling me that. You're telling me that. Like,
I thought that was lit. Like,
Yeah,
that was awesome.
that game sucked.
No, it did.
The defense played its
That game sucked. That was a boring ass game.
I thought
Alabama
that was a really good game. It's just Alabama's more talented, so eventually Cincinnati.
It was a
close.
Eventually,
I thought for the first like 30, 35 minutes they hung around. It was a good football.
Anyone who likes the underdog got up to that.
They were.
I was the one who said it in my idea.
Cincinnati, Alabama.
I want to see Georgia out there.
That's the thing.
My point is that it was a great game. It didn't have to be
Like if y'all want NFL Junior, that's fine. I don't want NFL Junior.
I do. I want good teams to play other good teams. Right now, all the good teams just got to play each other because they know if they lose, the playoff chances are shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like that. It's not fun for anybody to just not to be avoiding the other good teams. It's fun for you watching other good teams avoid other good teams so they can just resonate.
Ohio State loses. Just pretend they lost last weekend. When they play Maryland, all of a sudden it's Ohio State's gonna win.
It's not though. That's not fun.
That game matters though.
You know what matters? You win the national championship.
Okay. My ultimate goal in football is you have the 2 Super Bowls. Check 1, 2, 3. Check. Check. You got the promotion system. Yeah, that would be so fun. It would never happen. It would be something on into the pin.
Big night.
He's ready.
Kyle, what was that Sunday like waking up after getting back from the trip and kind of just thinking about, hey, that just happened?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was surreal. Went back and watched the TV copy of the game. I'm sitting there watching that last drive and my heart's pounding, like I don't know what's about to happen. But man, that's about as tough as a win you can get. And, I'm just proud that, we were able to pull it out and, I'm excited to keep building off of it.
Kyle, what do you think it says about Marvin that he suffered that injury and then he comes right back out next drive and makes a play on the first play?
Yeah, I think that is a side of Marvin that I don't know if people have seen yet, just his toughness. And, he could have easily just, preserved himself in that moment. But, that's not who he is. It's not the type of competitor that he is. And for him to come back and still have an impact and obviously, make plays right away and then have that huge catch on that last drive. I mean, I think that, gives you everything you need to know about Marvin, the things that you can't coach. And, that was big for him to come back.
You know him as well as anybody. Did you feel like when he got back out there, he was the usual self that he usually is?
Yeah. I mean, I know that regardless of what happened, if 18's on that field, he's going to give me everything he has. And that's exactly what he did. And, when I went back and watched the film after he got hurt, you really can't tell a difference. I mean, it says a lot about him pushing through that injury. Yeah, I think one, definitely the toughness. I think both physical and mental. I mean, obviously, being, I think you said 10 for 13 on third down is, really good. And to be able to go down and put that last drive together was huge. And I think a lot of the questions maybe around me were, was I built for that moment or not? And, I think the team rose to the occasion. I think it wasn't just me. I think it was the guys around me. I think you turn the last 4 minutes of that game, there's not one guy who stepped on that field that didn't, go as hard as he could and, gave us a great chance to win.
Kyle, what do you like in those moments, though? In those stress-filled moments? What's running through your head?
Yeah, I mean, just calm. I think practice is the toughest look I'll get, knowing that I'm going up against the best defense in America every single day in practice. And if you can have success in practice, I think that gives you so much confidence walking out there on the field, regardless of who you're going up against. And at that point, just executing a 2-minute drive, I said it on Saturday, just reverting back to our training and, something that we've done hundreds of times since I've been here. And now, getting an opportunity to go out on a big stage like that and execute it. So just calm and, sticking to my rules, my training.
Do you remember the last time in your life when you walked into a sporting event and you weren't like that last time they rattled you?
No, I can't. I can't. Maybe when I was in like middle school or something. Yeah.
Those first two passes to Trevion that didn't hook up,
Mm-hmm.
what did you remember telling yourself something? I mean, or resetting, or what was that moment like?
I mean, we were good. I mean, obviously it was 4-down territory, and so we still had 2 opportunities to get 10 yards. And regardless of the situation and who we're playing, I'm going to take our guys any day. And at that point, I knew as soon as we got that first completion and we got that momentum rolling, I knew we were good. So it was all about just finding that rhythm and getting that first one that seemed to a mech. And, we got going after that.
Yeah, it's almost like asking a guy, who's your favorite kid? You don't have any kids yet,
No.
but was it the drag route to Julian Fleming that he turns up for the first down? Was it the throw to Mecca down at the goal line? What is that throw that really stands out in your mind? The play that had to happen, Marvin laying out for that ball.
Yeah. Obviously there's a lot of big plays down the stretch, but I'd probably have to say the throw to Julian, because it's something we talk about all the time with those crossing routes. We call it quality of the throw. If I put it, a foot behind him, he has to stop for the ball, the game's over. And something we harp on in practice. And for it to come up in a situation like that, 4th and 7 with the game on the line, and I think he got the first down by half a yard. It just goes to show that everything that the coaches harp on in practice is real. And to kind of see it all play out like that was pretty cool when I went back and watched it.
You just mentioned that there were questions about whether you were built for that moment. Did you hear that stuff?
I mean, obviously, I think it's tough not to. You open your phone, and that's what people want to talk about. And I felt like just myself, I felt like I had something to prove. Obviously, I've made some good plays this year so far, but nothing is quite like down 4 points and needing to put a drive together against a top 10 opponent on the road. And so I think that's about as good as a moment you can create and test yourself with. And I think we answered.
Now that you've done that, had that moment, what will that do for you next time you're in a situation like that? Or do you feel like, man, I already knew I could do it. I didn't have to go through.
Yeah, I felt like as soon as we got the ball back with a minute and 26 seconds left with a timeout, I had all the confidence in the world in our offense. And, like I said, it's something that we practice a whole lot here, because at the end of the day, that's really what the game came down to, is that last drive. And so if we got the ball back, I knew we were going to go down and score. There was no doubt in my mind. It was just how we were going to do it. And obviously it was a tough drive, converting a few 3rd and longs and a 4th down, but you can't draw it up much better than that.
What's it like for you to know that you can do that, to know that you're built for this, but to have people question it and not be able to prove it until Saturday? You know that you can do it. You just hadn't had a chance to show
Yeah. No, I think it was just a matter of time until everything kind of plays itself out. And, I think one of my favorite sayings, what's done in the dark will always come to light. And, just countless of reps and hours and, hours in the film room preparing, all for that one moment. So I felt confident walking out there.
You've had a few days now to think about what Coach Jay did after the game, the emotion he showed and the way that he went to bat with you guys. Went on national TV and said, I love you guys. As we get a little away from that, what did that moment mean to you guys?
Yeah, it means a lot. Obviously, I think every single guy on this team has Coach Day's back, and we all know that he has ours. And for him to go do that, I think it just showed his true emotion and how he feels about this team. And I think that fired the guys up a lot. You don't really see too many head coaches after a game like that show that type of emotion, and for him to do that on that type of stage, I think it showed everyone on the team how much he really cares about us.
When did you guys identify that Notre Dame only had 10 on that last play? Because that was where play ran right.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the first play, when we got down to the one, we called the sprint out, and I kind of took a look at the defense. I noticed that soft spot, but obviously we already called the sprint out, and I'm sure they saw that up in the box. And I was thinking the next play has to be a run to the left. And when I got the call, I was like, all right, they obviously saw it up in the box. Coach Day saw it, I'm sure. And, it was, I think, a perfect call. And it's not our problem. They only had 10 guys in the field, and I think we took advantage of it, obviously.
Is there anything you've learned through the first month of the season about yourself through the process of winning the job and taking command of the offense, and then the climax against Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think one of the most underrated parts of it is just controlling the moments and controlling the environment, and making sure that the guys around you just have the utmost confidence in you. And I think the only way you can really do that is by putting the work in and letting them see that, whether it's staying late after practice, watching film, getting extra reps after practice, just allowing guys to see you putting in that extra work. And when moments like that arise, you want to have all 11 guys or all 10 other guys on the field believe in you.
Kyle, you mentioned watching the team copy and feeling like you don't know how it's going to end. What's that experience like when you're rewatching this all over again on television?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny watching it from that point of view and then kind of comparing it to what I saw on the field. It seems like it's happening so fast on TV, and it's a crazy environment. But when you're on the field, it seems like everything's moving in slow motion. You can hear yourself breathe. It's just completely different perspective. So it's cool, kind of just comparing the two, and it's kind of a dream come true growing up, being a little kid watching those type of games and seeing it on TV, and it's yourself.
And then when you're watching it, you throw to Cade, it goes through a defender's hands. What's going through your mind as you're watching that?
I mean, I can tell you what I said on the field. I'd probably get in trouble by Jerry for repeating it. But obviously that wasn't a great read. But I feel like that's the type of game it was, a game of inches. And watching it back on film, obviously we like to have that one back. But I think we got almost a second chance there at life, and made the most of it.
How much more was Notre Dame bracketing Marvin than the past teams you played?
Yeah, I mean, obviously their DBs are really good. I think that was definitely the best secondary we've seen all year, and credit to them for that. And I think anytime they left Marvin in a one-on-one situation, tried my best to get him the ball if that was what the read kind of presented. But they also did play a safety over top or buzz the linebacker underneath him a lot, and didn't give us a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and rightfully so, for him being the best receiver in America. I think that was a smart game plan, but I think that's kind of the problems defenses will face guarding Marvin. It's, if you want to double him, it's going to open up other guys on the field, which I think we did a good job of taking advantage. But if, you want to play even across the field, then he's going to have a mismatch regardless of who it is.
Were they doing that more than on Youngstown and Western Kentucky and those teams?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like they tried to do a good job of giving us different looks, pre-snap, trying to make all the coverages kind of look the same, and disguising their coverages and what they're trying to do pre-snap. And like the one fade I threw him on our sideline that they ended up calling back. That was the pre-snap picture where it looked like he could have been double, and then that safety turned the other way. So I knew I had one-on-one with Marvin. So that's just things like that, just trying to give different looks.
Do you think teams will consistently do that with him? Because you have a 1,000-yard receiver on the other side.
Yeah, I think it's kind of just pick your poison at that point. I mean, having Emeka, Julian, and Cade, if you want to double Marvin, then that's going to present other problems. So I think it's just all about what defensive coordinators feel like they have the most chance of success. But obviously, I think regardless of what they choose, we're going to have good answers for that.
You mentioned teams showing you different looks. Notre Dame, I think, tried to show you some quarters on that 3rd and 19, like going from man to that.
Yeah.
I guess diagnosing that, like how quickly were you able to see that and find that soft spot for Emeka? And then pre-snap, like how do you feel like you're developing as the weeks are going?
Yeah, so that was drop 8. They had 8 guys in coverage, I think, on that 3rd down. And, no one's really wide open when the defense is dropping 8. And so you just kind of felt that soft spot. And I think Emeka felt that soft spot too, and just tried to throw it with anticipation. And obviously, he made a great play, a contested catch. And then, like you said, pre-snap, I think, a lot of that is watching film during the week and kind of getting a step ahead of what they're going to show you pre-snap, and then what they could run off of that, and just trying to pick up little keys to give you an edge when you get out there on the field. So I think it's just all about learning and continuing to understand what to look for during the week, things that you'll see out there in the field to kind of give you that edge.
Last year, CJ kind of, are you going what? boy, Mecca, I hope you're seeing the same thing I am. I mean, is that little thought going through your head?
On the third down?
Yeah, on that third down.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
because you both got to see it.
yeah, that's a play we don't always get, full speed, kind of a walkthrough type of play there at the end. And, I think the guys that we have playing receiver, their football IQ is through the roof. And so I think he kind of felt that void right there and knew that it was going to be a bang bang type of play. And so when I threw it, I don't even know if he had his head around yet. But obviously, I think, he trusted where I was going to put the ball away from the defender, kind of right in that soft spot like we talked about. And, the rest is history. Yeah.
We're going to go Steven, Nathan, and then Doug. And then that was on the last three.
Last year, CJ used to take us through this a lot with just his process when he pre-snap.
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of your process? What are you looking through as your pre-snap before you snap?
Yeah, I think every week, depending on the situation, we talk about keying different things on the defense because, teams will try to disguise their coverages, obviously, and, try to get my eyes a little confused. So we talk about, players that, won't lie to us and keys that won't lie to us. And then I think, you can see a lot of things on film and, think you're going to be keyed into every single one of it. But the reality is when you step on the field, it's really only 2 or 3 guys that are really going to give you a good idea of what they're going to run. So I think it's diagnosing that during the week. And then when you're out there in the field, just trusting your eyes and what you see.
So is that where your eyes go for that?
Hey,
The
Mike,
person who's
we'll
not
put
going
him
to
right
lie.
here.
Is that where you're
Last
going
two,
first?
Say that one more time.
You're talking about those people in the field
Yeah.
who aren't going to lie to you.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out what it
Yeah.
is. Is that
Yeah.
where your eyes are going
Yeah,
first before anything else?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, every play call, the read is going to be a little bit different. So we go over pretty much every single situation and every defense we could possibly see during the week just to kind of give us that step, like I talked about.
I just want to go back to that bracket question. How much did you guys press on stats specifically in practice, even going back to I suppose?
Mhm.
How much does it help you now to play a game against the you come out of that with a better idea of how to attack it?
Yeah, I think going into the season, I kind of knew regardless of who we were playing, the one-on-one opportunities with Marvin that he got last year probably wouldn't be as high this year. And so it's something we practice, and I think every single team just tries to have their own variation of it, whether that's playing a safety over top or playing the corner deep and dropping a linebacker underneath Marvin. So there's different ways to get to it, and I think we kind of knew early on in the season that's kind of what we were going to get a good amount of snaps. And so I think coming up with plans to combat that has been good. And I think Marvin's been good about it. I think he understands, obviously, I think last game wasn't his best statistically, but the impact he had on that game, I think is, something that doesn't get talked about enough. For him to draw two defenders most of the night was huge for our offense.
Last question to Doug.
Kyle, Coach Day is kind of this idea of the extraordinary trait in a quarterback. He thinks the quarterback has one. What you're talking about being calm in the moment, do you think maybe that's one of yours that feels like you weren't?
Yeah, no.
You've been through this, man.
Yeah.
We're kind of ready for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good quality of mine. If you're going to play quarterback at a high level and be in situations like that, I think it's extremely important to be calm, collected, and focused at the task at hand. And, I think that's something that you have to practice. I think, visualizing the situation before it happens, putting yourself in the game. And, I think that's something that just doesn't happen by accident. So the biggest thing for me was just during the week, understanding what type of environment it was going to be, understanding, what type of situations we could potentially be in and just seeing it before it happens.
And sometimes great, memorable Ohio State wins kind of have a shorthand, like a name.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, that game. You got any suggestions?
Shoot, maybe like 3rd 19 or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, folks, we're going to put a Mecca at the table right now as well.
I think it's a little bit of both. I started working with mental performance coach, which has been really good. So I think we talk about.
Mecca, can you go over that third 19 play and what you saw?
Well,
Well, obviously, you get to talk to you guys.
professional athletes.
I'm talking about, with Kyle, that he's got to read that defense and know where he's going. You do too, right?
Mhm.
It was kind of y'all both being on the same page at the right time and stuff. What did you see there, and what's an example of just the hookup you have with this guy?
Yeah, that's a play that we practice Pretty much every week, every Friday, we go over that play just in case you never know when you might need it. And unfortunately, we never get to practice it at that magnitude. So you kind of got to be ready to step up in that moment. But it's kind of like you said, Colin and I were just on the same page when it came to that play, and we were able to execute it.
Yeah, it's not like you're wide open there because those guys closed on you quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it like to be in that kind of bang bang play to make that catch?
I couldn't tell you what it's like because I don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's just something that happens. You're just out there playing football. You've been playing football since you were in second grade, first grade, and at those moments like that, you're not really thinking. It's kind of just second nature to you because you put yourself through the training and the practice to be able to do it. So it kind of just happened naturally, and it was something like when I caught the ball. It's those plays you're not thinking about that, and then you're just like, oh wow, I just did that.
What does it do for this team moving forward, especially this offense, to make those kind of plays in the clutch in a game like that? You feel like a little different now than you did a week ago. You understand what I'm saying? From a group standpoint.
Well, to be honest, it doesn't do much for us unless we capitalize on the opportunity that we've been given. We came out with a huge win, a top 10 victory. It's not easy to do. We're going to play other top 10 opponents this year, like Penn State and Team Up North. So it's going to propel us forward in a sense and make us stronger in that way. But so we got to continue to build off this and get better.
Like a lot of people talk about dwelling on the bad play rather than the good play. You just move on from the good one, dwell on the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think more about the 2 third down conversions on the final drive or the touchdown that wasn't in the first half?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I'm kind of past Notre Dame at this moment. I haven't really been thinking about the game. I'm on to Maryland, focusing on getting my body right and getting all the people back healthy and watching film and all that type of stuff. So try to move on from things quickly.
Mecca, we saw Mark suffer an injury on Saturday. He's out there on the Monarch right now. Do you ever tell him to take a break?
No, I don't.
What does it say about his toughness that he's able to, come back out there on the next drive and make a play right away?
Yeah, I think toughness is something that, toughness can either be developed or you can be just raised in it. And I feel like Marvin has done a tremendous job of developing it because that's something that we've been emphasizing as an entire team and as Coach Mick and his strength staff that we've been working on. It definitely showed in that moment. It was huge for the team.
Mecca, especially maybe in the slot position, can you just explain to us, there's what's drawn up in a play, right? That, like, this is how we're supposed to execute this. But can, the feel in the moment of what a defender is doing and where you have to sit and understanding how Kyle's expecting you to read it, right? How you're expecting him to read it. How much goes into that? Just like there's the playbook, but then there's the player, right? Like in the situation. How much did that apply to sort of some of the big plays?
It kind of comes down to doing your job description and getting it done in any way possible. So if your job description is to sit at the middle of the field and be ready for the ball at 15 yards, you have to find a creative way to do that, even if they might be covering the middle of the field. So just finding ways to get open in that sense. And at the end of the day, not every play is going to be against the defense that you drew it up for. So you have to be able to be a playmaker and a problem solver at the receiver position. And to be able to do that, you have to have a great quarterback, which we have, because Kyle was able to find me in those moments that might have been unorthodox, or he expected me to be places where, we might have not practiced or gone against in that certain coverage. So that's just a testament to Kyle's work ethic.
So the clock in your head was telling you got to be there in how many seconds?
It's never no, not really. You always want to come off the ball full speed. The quicker you get open, the better operation there is for the line, less pass rush, all that type of stuff. So you want to come off the ball as fast as you can and get open as fast as you can, because Kyle can get the ball out quicker. So that's always a part of it. Yeah.
Kyle was talking about teams having to take their poison. Obviously, doubled Marv some, they doubled you some. Do you recognize, as you, whether it's pre-snap or in a play, what's going on? And okay, they've doubled here, they're doubling me, where the opportunity lies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How does that, when you know a team's trying to take away Marvin, how does that open things up for you or the other guys?
If it's just math, really. If you put 2 guys on one person, somebody's going to be uncovered or something like that, but they might not be able to run the zone that they wanted. Kind of like the big play that Xavier Johnson had. There's really nobody on him, and that was because they tried to take the underneath away from Marvin. They were playing, 2 to the field on me, double and Julian. Nobody picked up X, and that was just a risk Notre Dame was willing to take, and got them bit.
Are you surprised teams have done as much doubling that they have with you guys, just considering all the weapons you have?
I mean, not really. We kind of expected it, going into each and every week.
Is that play with Xavier, just everybody has to be ready on any play? I mean, Julian, Cade obviously make plays as well. The ball can come to anybody at any time.
Yeah, you might only get 3 reps of a specific play at practice that week, or maybe less than that. You might not get any reps. You might just get mental reps of it. And that 1 rep you do get, it might go to Cade, or it might go to Marv, or it might go to Jew. So you really have to be, anticipatory of anything that could happen, because they ran a lot more. We knew they were going to run man coverage. They ran a lot more than we anticipated. They did it pretty much on every down, except for 2nd and long and 3rd and long type of situations like that. So yeah.
On that 3rd and 19, it seemed like Kyle threw before you even turned. Does that chemistry go back even further than this offseason? I know you guys roomed together coming in. How far does this go back, your connection to Kyle?
Yeah, it goes back to pretty much when I met him, which was, when we came in as freshmen together. We just put in countless hours on this field right here, just getting better and working our craft, and even working the little nuances of the game, just going through things in our mind, just playing it out, and just talking about all the possibilities and all the things that could happen within a certain play.
People talk about his poise and composure and all that, but you guys have been confident in him for that. But to do it kind of on the stage you did it in that last drive, does it make you guys even more confident in Kyle as your guys?
I kind of knew that it would just happen. Stuff like that doesn't just happen by chance. You know what I mean? It's not like he got lucky or anything like that. He's always that way 24/7. He's never if the offense is shaky or in a tough spot, everybody can look at Kyle and he's going to be the most calm person on the field. So that's really encouraging to have behind the pocket, and we all knew that was going to be the case when he took over the starting role.
Is he like that?
What kind of group do you see from Chip training to go from a guy who came in here as a linebacker to now being the guy who's making the biggest play of the game?
Yeah, well, Chip has always been super mature, and he's always been a leader. He really immersed himself in the culture when he got here from Arizona State, and it was like he's been here since day one. So Chip's always been a guy you can rely on. He's a Iron Buckeye, Gold guy, leader. We only have 3 captains this year, but if we had a 4th, it would probably be Chip. So he's just a really great dude to have on your side of the ball, because he's going to get his job done. He's going to lead the team, and yeah.
Is Kyle like that calm outside of football? Because I know you lived with him for years. Is he always like that?
Yeah, pretty much.
When's the last time you remember him not being so calm, cool, and collected?
At the end of the game.
What did he do?
Huh? He was fired up. Yeah, he was fired up. That's all I can really say. Got a big hug from him after the game. He was yelling. He was he was talking his stuff. So it was good to see that. It's good to see that excitement from him.
What do you think of your coach? What do you think of your coach's emotion?
I fully support everything Coach Day said, and everything that he's going to say in the future. That's my head coach. We're all going to rally behind him, and we believe he can get us to where we want to be.
What's that like to see that energy and emotion out of Kyle after the biggest game of his young career so far?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. Nobody really questioned how much he cared. So we all know how much it means to him. So just to see that kind of come to life, it was just really special. And I'm happy for the team, but I'm extremely happy for him as an individual and him as a friend.
On the flip side of that, he's been really good on 3rd down this year.
Yep.
When you have a guy who's so calm like that, what does it do for you on going into a 3rd and 19 when you know your quarterback isn't panicking?
Well, yeah, that was something that CJ really excelled at too. You can even see it on the league, his stats when it comes to 3rd down. So I think, being cool, calm, and collected is something that Kyle's always had, but that was a trait that even grew a little bit as he learned behind CJ and all that type of stuff. So it's really like, we never took a step away from 3rd down. And like I said, you can always look at Kyle, maybe we get a penalty, we get the intentional grounding, or, we get a holding or whatever the case may be. And now it's 3rd and 19. Now it's 3rd and 10. Now it's 4th and 7. And, all those plays, we never really wavered. We never really shook, because we knew if we just execute and do what we've been practicing, we'd be okay.
Where's this offense definitely need to get better in the next 2 weeks? Y'all are all playing this week.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see down the line y'all need to improve on?
Probably execution, staying on schedule when it comes to plays, not having limiting negative plays and penalties, because with the new rule of the clock and if you look at all the teams that we played this year, they've kind of gone to the ground and pound approach, try to keep the ball out of our hands. There's a crazy stat. We had 8 possessions that whole entire Notre Dame game, and then 7 possessions in the first half of Georgia. So it's just like every play we have out there means more because we have less plays. So we can't get off schedule with any type of plays. We gotta stay on pace.
There's an urgency about it now that maybe wasn't even there last year.
Right.
From the standpoint of running play.
All right.
Mecca, thank you so much.
You said you're on to Maryland. Of course you should be. But when you win a game like this, how does it affect you walking around? You just had an amazing, awesome win.
Right.
How does that make you feel for a couple days?
I celebrated that night, and I was excited, but we're not anywhere near where we need to be, and that win doesn't really mean anything if we lose to Maryland. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mecca.
Tim would be suspended twice. So I always feel like we're all in the clear.
2 week suspensions. Oh, that was good football. I don't know if he's calling or I don't know. Nick,
Yeah, no.
third most important person in the league. Ryan Day and Mark. 3 pillars of Ohio State football. Offense, toughness,
Strength is basically
they used to do a ceremony where make her officially hand the team off there. Yeah, that was back when actually the 3 pillars are tough, toughness, love, height. It's a trade-off. You have to beat your family, you lose by 70 to team. It's up to you. The choice is yours. Either way. No,
you ever question where I stood on any of this? No. What was your feeling? What you say? I did great. That's emotion. 50 cents off you, though, bro. Good. Oh, hey. So you take practice. I know. You asked for a contract. I just, yeah, we ended up. I don't know who are you doing. It seems like Kyle was suggesting that they knew that everyone was
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Said that he thought they. Well, he didn't specifically say 10. He said like he saw the soft spots with defense.
Right.
It sounded like if they didn't call that play, he would tell them.
Yeah. Like they knew like there was like a lot of like there was more space than normal like to the left.
That was actually a good story.
Yeah. Then he just coincided.
Yeah.
They in practice, like, I don't know if they're going to today. Or
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
A lot of times they're playing that.
right. They would expect them to do like a thing. It would have been fun if we could have gotten them like after practice.
Yeah.
People still want to hear about the win.
Right.
I remember this in Austin earlier, and it's hard. I want to have it like keywords in like writing like letters, like FWA, and all like other things, like Aloo up to that spot. Like, whatever you want to. I'll write it, but also I'll text a bunch of people and see if like because Doug thought it would be helpful if we did like a group.
Yeah, I would put my name on it.
Yeah. My main issue is the hour.
Correct.
Like everybody had like a lot of other things, this and that, and like. Like that's the main thing. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I have like a bonus pick.
Right. I've never
It's always like 2 or 3 hours. 2 hours is like supposed to be like, and it's like the issue is like you're kicking people out after an hour, and like most people are not staying in conference. You stay in Fort Wayne, like Nathan and all them that are staying in Fort Wayne, like I say from Warsaw was like an hour away, like that's like closer.
Right. Right. For the traveling.
I wanted to specifically bring up that issue.
Yeah.
Because I think like
I'm sure it's a recurring
they apparently put this in maybe last year, or it might be new this year. It's either last year or this year. And what they told like the lead guys there was like, oh, this is how it is at a lot of schools now, which is not.
No, sure.
So I feel like they need to get like a letter.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if they're going to do anything.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Yeah. I feel like maybe we'll have some other leagues.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The pickup window was bad too. People like
that was
But I kind of want to like maybe bring up the post game because otherwise it feels like you're just being like, I didn't like this and I like this, like this, and like, but like that's the thing they absolutely have to fix. But okay, because like we came to write. Like, that's why I didn't come to watch the game.
I'm not a big
like he would complain about that kind of stuff, but I agree with that. It's like it's affecting.
That's the work.
That's directly affecting your ability to do your job.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like regret the interview setup because it's like all these stadiums were built like 100 years ago. Like, I'm more like understanding of those things.
I don't have a COVID uniform, so that might be tough.
Yeah. I'm going to do tomorrow, Friday, then send like I'll text everybody like send you or email people.
Sounds good.
Thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay, folks, the Lakers not going to be able to make it, so we're done until next Tuesday. Awesome. Coach will be on the coach's show tomorrow for 30 minutes, and then Coach Holtman will be the last half hour.
I'm on a thing like something in basketball, then. Like, yeah. You see the airplane I sent. Yeah, I can.
Where does this guy get off? Are we live?
We are live.
Thanks for telling me now. Ha 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 ha.
Make sure you hit record, please. Oh no, you're doing it through StreamYard.
Did I say anything inappropriate?
As far as you know.
If I have no memory of it.
You guys are hot already, so let's go.
Yeah, we are.
Thank you, Kevin.
Welcome to a very, very special live edition of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, September 28th. I'm your host, Tom Moore. The Maryland game is in 9 days. The game against Michigan is in 58 days. Tony Gerderman, more than 9 days or more than 7 days means, hey, it must be the week off for Ohio State. Never a week off here, though, in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I got to talk to 3 Buckeyes on Wednesday, talked to Kyle McCord, talked to Emeka Ibuka, talked to Cody Simon, 3 players who have had relatively eventful days on Saturday. I guess let's start with Cody Simon. He was the first one to come out. We'll start with Seems Only Fair. You know, we have talked now several times about the fact that we didn't talk about the fact that he made this incredible play to get a 4th down stop on Sam Hartman. And, he was asked about just that play in general and his, he was doing one thing and then he had to very quickly shift modes to do something else and do it very quickly before Sam Hartman crossed the first down line.
Yeah, and being on the field, like you're on the field, but you don't know exactly where you are on the field. And he talked about not knowing exactly where he was and where Sam Hartman needed to get. But at some point, you've got to make the decision to leave the coverage and go get the quarterback. And he couldn't have made a better choice at that point, because if you leave too soon, then you get thrown over the top. Unless there's some linemen downfield, but that's not something that he's really focused on, that sort of thing. He's just either I've got my guy and I've got this guy running to me. So he made the right decision and just stopped him in time.
The officials never see the lineman downfield, so I wouldn't expect the linebacker to do that.
One of the interesting things that I liked about just his entire day was somebody asked him, how do you stay ready, or how can you handle just being thrown in there? And he said, like, I am prepared to play every single play. You have to do that in practice. You have to be ready and prepared to play as if you're going to play every single play, because you don't know exactly when you're going to get thrown in there. And that's one of those instances. Now, I think this past week, they had an idea that they were going to go more three linebackers. I don't think he knew he was going to go and play in place of Steel Chambers at times. That was something new. But the fact that he was prepared for whatever allowed whatever to happen in Ohio State's favor.
Something else that probably helped him get prepared is he sounds like he has a much better grasp of the Jim Knowles defense right now. And, he talked about it. I mean, what did he say? Like he understands what Knowles is thinking at all times. You asked him about that.
Well, I did ask if it's a scary place, and he's like, yeah, it's not really scary, but it is something that we've talked about all year long, that's being in the same defense 2 years in a row and just having a better idea of not just what the defense does, what you do in the defense, but what Jim Knowles wants to see in that defense, what he's thinking, what his tendencies may be. But the ability to communicate things in a very quick manner allows them to do so many different things.
All right, we're going to communicate very quickly with a super chat.
A very generous super chat from Treasure the Torah. This is just a little something special to Kevin, Tom, and Tony. Much love and respect from Treasure the Torah. Love and respect Buckeye Nation. Something tells me we're definitely making the playoffs this year. Go Buckeyes.
Well, thank you very much.
You.
Always appreciate it. Always love seeing familiar names in the chat as well. I was kind of looking over Kevin's shoulder as he was streaming the interviews earlier, and I was like, oh, I know them. Always good to see you guys back there, and appreciate everyone's support. Okay, let's derail for a moment. I was thinking about this earlier. The fact that Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State got through the non-conference portion of the schedule unbeaten, and Michigan has 2.5 losable games left if you include Maryland. Penn State has maybe just 2 losable games left, Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State has a couple, and then, the Penn State-Michigan games, maybe, Maryland, theoretically, that'd be more of a concern in College Park. Maybe Wisconsin, that I think is week after Penn State. That's a little bit of a concern. Maybe Purdue, just because Ross-Ade Stadium is haunted. But, when you look at those teams getting through, and you look at Ohio State having a really signature road win now, it sure feels like the Big Ten East is in line for, if anyone was going to get 2 teams in the playoff, it sure feels like the Big Ten East has put itself in a pretty decent position to be the one that gets 2 teams in this year.
It's going to be crazy when it's 2 Big Ten teams and 2 Pac-12 teams in the playoffs down.
Man, I got to tell you, a year without an SEC team in the playoff, like
a year with no winter.
I kind of want to see that just to see what happens. That you hear the term "end of the world" thrown around a lot, but down in the Sweet Tea Belt, that literally might be viewed as the end of the world.
They may just hold their own playoffs.
Yeah,
and then crown Alabama. Everybody gets a national championship trophy. That's
the Fort Sumter Cup for the secession trophy.
The way the Pac-12 is going right now is crazy. But I think you're right. These 3 Big Ten East teams, it's hard for me to imagine, I guess, one of them going undefeated through this. It feels like they're going to knock each other off, and then we're right back to square one. And we have seen the Big Ten change rules midstream before, the COVID year when everything was, malleable. Who would object? Not even the Big Ten West would object Have you said this year the Big Ten West is not invited to the Big Ten championship game?
Here's the thing. This is a year when the ACC has already done that. The Pac-12 has already done that. So, I think if you look right now, I think Washington and Oregon are probably the two best teams in the Pac-12 right now, probably ahead of USC because those teams both employ defensive coordinators. So that puts them in a little bit of an advantage. If those two teams play, they play in a few weeks, I think. In the old model, they would go play USC or whoever comes out of the South. Now, those two teams might play again. So you might have, if the same team wins twice, well, if USC loses a couple games, if one of those teams loses a couple games, you're only getting one out of the Pac-12. The ACC, same deal. Florida State, I assume Florida State must still play Miami this year. They might play Miami again in the ACC championship game, which would, how beautiful would it be that after years and years and years of setting up the division solely that you had those teams, they never played, and then the first year they don't have divisions, then they play. That would be magnificent. But either way, you're talking about the fact that the Big Ten East champion would play the Big Ten West champion. That's probably good for everyone in the Big Ten East because then you don't have a team taking that second loss potentially. So, just a thought on that. I was thinking about that while I was walking the dog this morning. Just that boy, this is sure setting up well for the Big Ten to potentially get two teams in again this year.
Yeah, very much so. And we talked about that possibility early in the season or before the year, just because, and I don't know that we've really talked about Penn State being one of those two teams, and maybe we should spend more time talking about them moving forward.
Well, I mean, they just made Iowa's offense look bad, and not just anyone can do that to me.
Not just anyone, but almost anyone. All right, so now, so thank you to Treasure the Torah again for that very generous super chat. We appreciate it.
Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Let's talk a little bit about Kyle McCord, because Kyle McCord, most of the folks in our audience probably watch Kyle McCord on TV on Saturday night. Sounds like Kyle McCord went home and watched Kyle McCord on TV on Sunday, and that sounds like a really almost an out-of-body experience for him to do that.
Absolutely had to be, and he did talk a little bit about how weird it was. And he sits down and he mentions it. It's like he said he had butterflies watching because you don't know how it's going to end. And it reminded me of every year as a kid when I would watch Wizard of Oz. Never really sure that Dorothy and everybody's going to make it home and
finish the drill flying monkeys,
that sort of thing. It's like, everything is so scary, but he lived through it, and he's still like, that's why I asked him what's going through your mind when you're watching it and you throw that almost interception, and he's like, well, it was a bad read and things like that. But it was also interesting when he said watching it on TV, everything moves so quickly, so fast. But when you're on the field and you're going through it, everything is so much slower. He's like, I could hear myself breathing. Just everything is. That is where the adrenaline and it kind of slows time down because you are so focused and you're so prepared. We talk about that. Firefighters that rescuing people or mothers lifting cars off of children when everything around you is moving slower because you're just firing on all of your cylinders properly. And yes, he was a hero rescuing children from beneath a car in Notre Dame. But just that, knowing what's happened, you've lived through it, and now you're watching it from an entirely new perspective, and you're kind of watching it through the broadcasters, watching it through the fans. Because another thing, when you talk to players, they don't necessarily hear the fans when things are going on, when the game is going on. It did remind me of one time I was talking to Brian Roll about his 2-point conversion return to win against Navy.
Yep.
And he told me, he was floating above watching himself run it back, live. And it was, that was like an actual out-of-body experience. Yeah. This was just I'm going to watch it on the DVR later experience.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me because you hear young guys talk about, freshman year to sophomore year, the game starts slowing down for you. If the game's slowing down to that point where you're getting it in super slow-mo, that's probably a good indication of where Kyle McCord sort of is in his progression. And how do guys always talk about whenever we ask guys, how do you get better at that? How do you get better at recognizing stuff? What do they always say?
Experience.
Watching film. Watching film was the answer we're looking for. We have some lovely parting gifts.
Both experience and watching film. The experience of watching film.
The experience of watching film, yes. And what do we hear people... This is going to be, Tony, I'm going to lead you into this one. What do we always hear people talk about? How much Kyle McCord does?
Buys vowels.
experience. Sorry. Yes, watching film. I mean, Kyle McCord is the guy who you've heard this. You heard this about C.J. Stroud. You heard this about Justin Fields.
Yes.
First guy in, last guy out.
Watching
And
film in the hot tub.
watching film. I mean, who was it last week that talked about? Was it Emeka? Marv? One of them talked about. You'll see. I don't know, Donovan Jackson. Anyway, one of the players on the football team talked last week about the fact that you'll see Kyle McCord sitting in the hot tub watching film, and you'll tell him like you got to go home, and he'll just pretend not to hear you.
You're pruning up. You can't even swipe anymore.
So that's just reps. That is how you get better. That is how the game slows down, and so it makes sense the game's sort of slowing down.
And everybody talked about how Mecca talked about it. Not to move on, but this is kind of in that same vein. Like you're only going to get a certain number of reps for each of these plays throughout the week, and it may be 1 rep, it may be 2 reps. You may be watching a mental rep. You may be watching somebody else take that rep, but it all has to count because anytime that play can happen during a game. And so you need to be paying attention. You need to be focused, the ultimate focus on whatever is happening, even if you're not out there running that play, because that play is being practiced for a reason. But there's only so many hours in a work week for these guys to actually get those practices and those plays in. So, like, not everybody's going to get to practice every single play, but they have to be able to run it in a game.
Yeah, and that's something that I mean, we hear guys talk about mental reps all the time when they're injured. Guys talk about mental reps when they're the backup. And Kyle McCord went through a lot of this year, probably less than normal because they ran the 2-field thing during fall camp. But all those reps are precious, and that's why a couple weeks ago we were talking about the fact you probably need to make a decision because the reps are the ones; those are very precious. So making the most of those is big. Hey, speaking of wide receivers, just a quick update from here inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We had said earlier in the week, someone had asked us, what's the latest on Marvin Harrison, and we had said if we don't see him in there working on the Monarch machine, it'll be a big red flag. Good news, he was in here working on the Monarch machine, just standing there catching passes, but him and Xavier Johnson and Reese Stocksdale, and they were all just standing there, so it wasn't like everyone else was running and Marv wasn't. He did not have like a enormous walking boot on his right ankle or anything like that. Looked pretty fine to me. So, especially with a week off this weekend, obviously that is, you saw him come back. You wondered if that was adrenaline and painkillers and whatever to get him back out there. But, the fact that he's out here 4 days later, that's a very good sign on an area where I'm sure Ohio State fans had a little bit of lingering concern.
Yeah, and I guarantee there was some adrenaline. Then watching them walk off the field, Xavier Johnson, after the game, was helping Marvin walk off the field. He's obviously under his own power, but doing a little leaning on the blocko as well. It's always interesting watching because it's usually the same guys, and sometimes Emeka will be in there with them. But watching Marvin Harrison and Xavier Johnson feeding the Monarch machine for Reese Stocksdale, who has been injured all season. Yeah. And yet they're still helping him, work on that. And today they were working on low throws, which seems like the most annoying throws to work on, like right down worm burners at your feet, trying to catch those. The machine is amazing. Just, tell what you want. And, but it's just cool to see like a future NFL #1 draft pick, a future current captain of the Ohio State football team, and Reese Stocksdale, a walk-on who's been injured and isn't playing, but they're still working with him as if it was Emeka, Julian, and Marvin.
And if you want to see a little bit of video, I just tweeted out like 20 seconds. Not tweeted, Instagrammed out about 20 seconds of that video. If you look for Buckeye Huddle on Instagram, you can watch a little bit of Marvin Harrison catching balls from the Monarch machine. As I pulled out my phone to double-check our Instagram handle, I did also notice, hey, I forgot to ask you about Kyle McCord noticing, hey, Notre Dame only has 10 guys on the field.
That was
him figuring out. I bet I know at least vaguely, what we're going to do on this final play.
Yeah, that was interesting because he was asked, "When did you notice it?" And they noticed it as they're getting the play call in and as they're getting ready to run the roll to the right. And then he's thinking, well, hopefully they notice that upstairs that Ohio State will notice that and then call the right play for that. And that's exactly what happened. And the fact that the quarterback notices it, and nobody for Notre Dame notices it. And Ohio State even brings in, after that incompletion, they bring in Chip Trainum. So Notre Dame could have substituted. They would have been allowed to substitute.
I forgot about that.
And,
You're right.
And that's why, like, every excuse, the only thing that makes any sense is the worst possible answer is that nobody on Notre Dame realized it.
Yeah, because we had talked on the Wednesday episode of Buckeye Weekly. We talked about rewatching the game and just how much time there was between that second to last play and the last play in offense for Ohio State, and how I could have run from the sideline over in the time that we're talking about, and how they the idea that they didn't want to get an offsides penalty didn't make any sense, and I had forgotten that they subbed, so the refs would have held up the game to allow them to bring in a guy, yet no one noticed. Either they don't know the rules of football or no one noticed. And oh boy, that's
neither is a good answer.
Well, neither is a good answer. At least it wasn't a consequential play. I think that's the
true. I mean, they stopped them the first time.
They did. Did you see the tweet that was from the Tennessee State game where Notre Dame had 10 guys on the field for a play, and someone basically said, "Well, they have to get this cleaned up before they play a tougher opponent." Did they get it cleaned up, Tony?
No.
Interesting. Anything else from Emeka Egbuka that was notable to you?
Just the amount of he was another guy talking about the mental reps and that play, that 3rd and 19, is something that they do in walkthroughs on Fridays. They don't really get to run at full speed, and so just being able to execute in full speed in that situation, something that you just literally walk through, and it may be in a hotel room, or wherever that you're out here, you're not really doing anything full speed. But the play, what it looks like. And then Emeka also talked about how when you're running plays, you're not always going to get the defense that you expect or the coverage that you expect. So you have to find a way to get by your guy, to get to your spot where you're supposed to be, where your quarterback is going to be throwing the ball. And that was a play where they both kind of saw the same thing and trusted each other that the other guy saw it as well.
Yeah, and you see the wrong version of that all the time. When that works like it is, it's like, I'm sure that's just how they drew it up. When you see, when you hear the announcer say, "Oh, they weren't on the same page there," and one guy runs an out and one guy runs an up, and or one throws an out, and the other guy's running a screen. Yeah, it's like, oh boy, that was terrible. And you never know who did the thing that they were or were not supposed to do. That's watching a lot of film. That's repping stuff over and over again and just sort of knowing. So, Kevin, do we have any questions that we want to get to?
Yeah, we got it's 2:19, so we got to go about 10 minutes before we get thrown out of here. Odysseus, should Ohio State have run more rub routes and crossing routes earlier, like the one to Fleming on 4th and 7?
So rub routes and crossing routes, those work best against man coverage. And Notre Dame was playing a lot more man than I was expecting.
Yeah, and it was more than Emeka said they were expecting. Like the only time they weren't man, basically were 2nd and 3rd and long. We have wondered about the play calling in general, and you go in with your own expectations and the game plan with those expectations, and then you adjust throughout. And as every time Ohio State plays somebody, they see stuff that they haven't shown, that program hasn't shown before, that defense hasn't shown before, because that's what you have to pull out against Ohio State. But yeah, I mean, I think any of those mesh routes, those inside routes, they always, not that they always work, but they seem to work pretty well, especially when you get guys moving left and right. And yeah, I wouldn't have objected to that. So yeah.
Next up.
We just had a super chat come in. Jumps to the top of the line. Mike Farino, is there a reason that play wasn't run to the end zone? It seems like Emeka had been in the end zone. He likely scores. I'm no expert, but there could have been something I missed.
I think that might have been, there was a defender behind him. So I think that might have been just, I think whoever the safety was. Yeah, the safety's behind him. Also recognizing, hey, this line here on the field where the little slashy things are, that is a line of some consequence, and I'm not going to let you know. I'm not going to offer you the opportunity to get 3 yards past that. So I'm going to guess that was a decision based on where the defender behind him was. You settle down, you find a spot, you catch it, and then you've got a chance to run 2 plays from not very far.
Yeah, and that throw was in the air before Emeka was even looking for it, I believe. It was Kyle throwing to a spot where the defender wasn't going to be in time. And that the receiver would be in time. And if you throw that into the end zone, there's 2 guys there. It's not likely to be completed.
Frank, I was hard on McCord and I was dead wrong. The kid showed heart.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't perfect, as we said. Had that throw in on that last drive that I think he said. What he said on the field. If he repeated it in front of us. Jerry Emig, the SID, would probably not be thrilled with him. I'm guessing it was like hamburgers or something like that. wasn't perfect. Sam Hartman wasn't perfect either, and Sam Hartman is that was his 50th, I think, career start, and it was Kyle McCord's 5th. So for a game that a lot of the pregame analysis, rightly or wrongly, and this is probably a little bit of an oversimplification in terms of how people are looking at it, but a lot of the pregame analysis was, well, Notre Dame has a veteran quarterback, and Ohio State has this inexperienced guy, and in a big moment, you got to go with the veteran. Well, the inexperienced guy was the one who came up, and that's that shows you a lot about the fact that if the moment's not too big for you, you've got enough talent around you that all you have to do is do your job. You don't have to be a hero. You have to just be able to do your job, and he showed you he could do his job.
Kyle talked about the first 2 incompletions on that drive, and then once he got that first completion in, he knew they were going to be okay. And the players always said, we knew we were going to go down and score. But just getting that first that first little confidence boost in there. But he also talked about visualizing these moments makes it easier to actually get through them and accomplish what you're supposed to accomplish. And just all of the off-field visualization outside of the study, just like that sort of thing that goes into these things. I don't think people really, that's nothing you ever see. So it's like it doesn't exist, but it exists for all of these guys as they're trying to accomplish the highest levels of college football.
Well, and when you're talking about visualization, you're not talking about, like there were probably a bunch of 7-year-olds around the state of Ohio pretending to be Kyle McCord on Sunday afternoon and leading the Ohio State team with the invisible players around them down the yard for a touchdown. This is like sports psychology stuff. They do a lot of mental coaching and that kind of stuff here as well, which is that's far beyond just like, well, I'm going to close my eyes and pretend, and we'll see. I'm the big hero of the game again. It's way more involved than that, but that's all stuff that goes into this.
Tyler, what do you think the defense could improve on other than sacks?
What could the defense improve on other than sacks?
I think the stopping the run is one thing that they've done well, but they gave up 176 yards to Notre Dame. Just staying more gap sound. I think we saw some issues with that. Lost leverage a couple of times, but overall, like, they have the safeties back there to help them as well. So they were able to make up for some of those mistakes. I just think just being a little bit more fundamentally sound on where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing at linebacker. And again, it's 2 guys, but you throw Sonny Styles in there, you throw Cody Simon in there as well. But this is a very good offensive line that they're going against. They were pushed and they were tested, and it took all of them to answer that bell. And teammates are picking up slack for teammates, and I think that's the most important thing to take away from this one. But overall, I would just say just that fundamental aspect of gaps and things like that.
And they gave up a bunch of passing yards to the tight end to Mayer,
not
Mayer.
Mitchell Evans,
sorry, to Mitchell Evans. They gave a bunch of yards to Mayer last year. Don't correct me. Mitchell Evans, I think he was 7 for 75 or something like that. There's areas in the defense where you got to get better, but the running obviously, but to your point, the safeties were back there, and when the safeties are back there, stuff didn't get past them. So that was really encouraging. I think that's like a B+, A- kind of grade, I think, for the Ohio State defense.
Did you say third downs? Notre Dame was 5 of 10 third downs.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm ranting about the lack of possessions, there's always the response: tell the defense to get off the field. And then there is some truth to that. Get off the field, 50%. Third downs, not great, but that's last year with the baking into 5 big plays. The questions were like, why not just the bend but don't break? Force an offense to go down the field. And we're seeing what's happened now that they're doing it. They're giving up 10 points a game to this point.
And they really didn't break very much because they had the missed field goal. They got to stop on the plus side of the 50. They had 2 times when they stopped them on 4th and 1. So they really are bending but not breaking. We think we have time for one more before we wrap it up.
We'll go here to Condi's. They need to run more routes like the Fleming one with a faster player.
Well, and we just talked about the rub routes, the mesh routes, things like that, running across the middle. Julian Fleming is plenty fast, but I'm never going to object to more crossing routes, more mesh routes, things like that, where you've just got defense and offense going different ways. That play, throwing short of the sticks, and then Kyle McCord talked about, I don't remember the exact word for it, but they talk about those throws where they have to be perfect and they have to be leading the receiver so that he can continue in a direction towards first down. Because if you're going to throw short of the sticks and you throw it behind a guy, you've lost.
Yeah.
And so that has to be pinpoint pass, and you know that going in when you throw this, because that's just where the route is. And then I was surprised that Julian Fleming got tackled as quickly as he did on that one, because he's a very strong guy. He's a strong runner. I have no problem with him running crossing routes and getting involved and things like that. But boy, that was a close one.
It was a close one. And I do wonder if you're going to see them mix in more of those kind of crossing routes or mesh routes, because you want them. That's a route that can force. I mean, Don Brown learned this lesson the hard way in 2018. That's a lesson that's a route combination that can force you to play zone. And if you play zone, then you've got guys settling into zone and finding spots in the zone, and maybe making it a little harder to double someone like Marvin Harrison or Emeka Ibuka or something like that. So, all right, so that will wrap it up here. We are going to get booted out of here in just a minute, but wanted to thank you guys all for joining us in the chat and joining us for the live interviews earlier today. We always appreciate having you guys here along with us, and make sure you join us as well at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Fun, a lot of stuff to talk about this week. A lot of active stuff on the board. Football for the Buckeyes, but also active pro football chat, active hockey Blue Jackets chat.
Men's basketball media day was this week.
Men's basketball media day was this week. Tony was there. Lots of interesting stuff from Chris Holtman and so the new look Buckeyes this year. So lots of good stuff there, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. If you're watching this live on YouTube, we would appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up. They help other folks find these shows. And then if you're listening on your podcast platform of choice, leave us a 5-star rating and review, which will do the same. It only takes a second on your part and will help us out a lot. So that will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.